The Ukraine-Russia war has escalated with advanced drone technology targeting Russian oil refineries to disrupt strategic fuel supplies. Russia has fortified defenses around these facilities, while Ukraine uses precise intelligence to time perfect strikes. In 2025, a Ukrainian drone attack on a Russian oil refinery unleashed chaos, shaking the region and shocking the world. Below is the account of this confrontation, from a devastating strike to an unexpected outcome that left everyone reeling.
On a stormy night in 2025, at a Russian oil refinery in Rostov, Ukrainian forces unleashed a swarm of attack drones, armed with high-explosive warheads, targeting massive fuel tanks. Russian radars blared with alerts, but the drones flew low, evading air defenses and slamming into their targets with terrifying speed. The first explosion ignited a colossal fireball, spreading to other tanks, turning the refinery into a blazing inferno. Debris flew like a metal storm, black smoke choking the sky, and Russian workers fled in panic amidst the sea of flames. Alarms wailed across Russia, rescue teams scrambled, but the devastation was overwhelming. The battlefield became a fiery abyss, setting the stage for a ferocious energy war.
Russia struck back instantly, launching Iskander missiles from bases near the border, pounding Ukrainian positions in Kharkiv with devastating force. Russian Su-34 jets roared in, dropping bombs on Ukrainian bunkers, shaking the city to its core. Ukraine countered with lightning airstrikes on Russian bases in Crimea, targeting munitions depots. A brutal air battle erupted, with jets from both sides clashing in deadly chases. Black smoke smothered the sky, relentless explosions splitting the ground, transforming the border into a chaotic war zone where every minute pulsed with danger.
The conflict surged into electromagnetic warfare with terrifying speed. Russia deployed electromagnetic pulse (EMP) weapons to disable Ukrainian radar systems near the border, disrupting communications and downing drones mid-flight. Ukraine retaliated with high-energy microwave devices, frying Russian radar stations near Crimea. Cyberattacks from both sides crippled command networks, with Russian hackers exposing Ukrainian troop movements and Ukraine seizing control of Russian coastal defenses. In the skies, AI-driven drones collided, bursting into fireballs that illuminated the night. The war expanded as allies joined, turning the border into a multi-layered flashpoint where invisible waves and fire merged in pandemonium.
Russia launched a massive ground offensive, aiming to seize Ukrainian cities to cut off supply lines. Tank convoys rolled into Sumy, sparking ferocious urban battles. Ukraine countered with rapid ambushes, using guided missiles to incinerate Russian armor. A massive explosion destroyed a Russian munitions depot, triggering floods and displacing thousands. Neighboring nations were drawn in, with Poland bolstering its borders. The global economy reeled as oil prices skyrocketed from disrupted supply routes, and satellite imagery showed vast regions shrouded in smoke, marking an unprecedented phase of savage warfare. The attack's fallout triggered a global humanitarian crisis. Destroyed infrastructure forced millions to flee, flooding borders into Europe and Russia. Refugee camps overflowed, diseases spreading in the chaos as international aid struggled to keep pace. The US and Europe organized emergency relief, but insurgent groups exploited the turmoil to rise. Autonomous robots cleared contaminated zones, while relief convoys delivered supplies under fire. Russia and Ukraine, grappling with humanitarian disaster, were forced into a temporary ceasefire, but new rebel factions emerged from the chaos. The crisis paused the war, but swelling refugee flows and persistent disease threats signaled an unstable future. As a journalist covering the ongoing Ukraine-Russia conflict, I've tracked the intense drone and armored warfare since Russia's full-scale invasion in 2022.
Recent real-world reports highlight Ukraine's remarkable success in destroying Russian assets. In 2024 alone, Ukrainian forces neutralized over 3,000 Russian tanks using attack drones and other tactics, as noted by U.S. commanders. Massive Russian drone assaults like the August 2025 barrage of 574 drones and 40 missiles saw Ukraine downing 52 drones and losing 50 more through electronic warfare. Ukraine's counterstrikes, including one of its largest drone attacks on Russian airfields and oil depots, have turned the tide in key battles. Drawing from these actual events, I've crafted a fictional war scenario imagining a massive Russian assault met with devastating Ukrainian resistance, blending real geopolitical flashpoints with speculative escalation for dramatic effect. This is purely hypothetical, exploring the what if of turning an enemy's arsenal into a firestorm and the unforeseen consequences that follow.
On a frozen dawn in 2025, Russia unleashed its most ambitious assault yet on Ukrainian defenses near Kharkiv, deploying 180 Shahed-style drones and 120 T-90 tanks in a coordinated blitz. Inspired by real massive drone attacks, such as the 2025 barrage of 574 drones in a single night, the swarm darkened the sky, targeting Ukrainian air defenses and supply lines. The tanks rumbled forward, their cannons pounding fortified positions, echoing real losses where Russia has seen over 3,000 tanks destroyed since the war began. Ukrainian radars lit up with alerts as electronic warfare units jammed signals, but the sheer volume overwhelmed initial responses. The battlefield trembled, setting the stage for a catastrophic turn.
Ukrainian defenses sprang into action, transforming the Russian advance into a blazing inferno. FPV drones, akin to those in real footage where Ukrainian operators incinerated Russian tanks with thermite payloads, swarmed the armored columns. Precision strikes ignited fuel tanks, turning 120 Russian vehicles into a chain of explosions, their wreckage littering the frozen fields like undocumented catastrophic blasts. High-altitude interceptors and anti-air systems downed waves of drones, with 52 shot down outright and 50 more neutralized by electronic jamming, mirroring a real December 2024 attack where Ukraine downed over half of 110 incoming drones. The sky filled with fireballs as the Russian assault crumbled into a self-inflicted firestorm of debris and flames. The conflict escalated into cyberspace and the skies. Ukrainian cyber units, building on real successes like disrupting Russian communications, deployed AI viruses to hack drone swarms, causing them to malfunction and crash into their own tank formations. Russian hypersonic missiles retaliated, but Ukraine's mobile air defenses intercepted many, debris raining down like in actual strikes on air bases. Ukrainian fighter jets downed Russian Su-34s, reminiscent of real drone strikes on Boris-Soglebsk airbase targeting fuel and warehouses. The firestorm intensified as electronic warfare blinded radars, turning the front line into a chaotic blaze of misdirected fire and exploding munitions. The firestorm spread, drawing in reinforcements and escalating into multi-front chaos. Russian artillery pounded relentlessly, but Ukraine's HIMARS systems, proven in real operations destroying Russian tanks, unleashed precision barrages, obliterating supply depots and turning armored advances into smoldering ruins. Neighboring regions ignited as Ukrainian drones struck oil depots deep in Russian territory, inspired by Ukraine's largest ever drone attack in September 2024, targeting refineries and power stations. International borders tensed, with Allied forces scrambling jets as the conflict threatened spillover, echoing real fears of escalation amid Russia's battlefield losses, including 1,149 armored vehicles since January 2024. The inferno consumed vast swaths of the landscape. In an unexpected turn, an international coalition of neutral European and Asian nations deployed a peacekeeping force to the conflict zone, using warships and surveillance drones to establish a buffer zone near Kharkiv. Air and ground patrol robots, equipped with AI sensors, sealed off Russian supply routes, halting further drone attacks.
Ukrainian airstrikes on Russian bases tapered off as the coalition opened safe corridors for humanitarian aid, delivering food and medicine to besieged cities. Though hostilities paused, the battlefield remained littered with tank wrecks and drone debris, and underground insurgent groups began regrouping. Russia's firestorm was extinguished, but the international intervention left an unstable region with new plots simmering beneath the surface, foreshadowing future conflicts. Tensions in the South China Sea have simmered for years, with confrontations between U.S. and Chinese warships heating up the region. U.S. freedom of navigation operations frequently spark disputes, while China reinforces its sovereignty claims with provocative actions like water cannons and sonar pings. A collision between a Chinese destroyer and a U.S. naval ship near Haivan Island in 2025 pushed the region to the brink, triggering a chain of events that altered the global balance of power. Below is the account of this conflict, from a minor maritime misstep to its catastrophic global consequences. On a stormy August morning in 2025, the waters around Haivan Island in the South China Sea boiled with tension. A Chinese destroyer shadowed the USS Higgins, an Arleigh Burke-class U.S. destroyer equipped with advanced radar and cruise missiles, during a freedom of navigation operation to assert international rights in the disputed region. The Chinese ship broadcast warnings, demanding the USS Higgins depart, echoing Beijing's sovereignty claims. But the U.S. ship held its course, radars locked on target, the atmosphere electric. Suddenly, the Chinese destroyer veered dangerously close, forcing the Higgins to maneuver evasively. The seas around Haivan Island became a powder keg, poised to ignite. The challenge turned aggressive as the Chinese ship deployed water cannons and sonar pings to disrupt the USS Higgins systems. A miscalculation led to a collision. The Chinese destroyer scraped the Higgins hull, sparking fires on both vessels. Alarms blared and smoke rose over the waves. The Higgins fired warning flares, but China mistook this as hostility, launching anti-ship drones. The U.S. ship activated its close-in defense systems, downing several drones, but surviving missiles shook the sea. The turbulent waters bore witness to relentless explosions, transforming the area around Haivan Island into a blazing battlefield. The conflict spilled into cyberspace and the skies. Viruses targeted the USS Higgins navigation systems, while U.S. countermeasures disrupted the Chinese fleet's radar. In the air, fighter jets from a nearby U.S. carrier clashed with Chinese aircraft in fierce dogfights. Hypersonic missiles streaked toward the Higgins, but its advanced defense systems intercepted most, debris raining into the sea. The war expanded as Allied forces from a neighboring nation joined with patrol boats, turning Haivan Island into a multinational flashpoint where explosions and black smoke shrouded the sky. The conflict escalated beyond control when China launched ballistic missiles at U.S. military bases in the Pacific. U.S. retaliated with a strike targeting 3 covert Chinese nuclear bases in the mainland interior. Stealth cruise missiles launched from U.S. submarines obliterated its facilities, shaking the regional balance of power. Smoke and radioactive dust rose from the destroyed bases, sowing panic in nearby cities. China's allies responded with attacks on U.S. bases in Japan and South Korea, while U.S. carriers deployed defensive formations in the South China Sea. The global economy reeled as maritime trade routes halted, and satellite imagery revealed vast regions engulfed in smoke and dust. The nuclear strike unleashed catastrophic consequences. Radioactive dust from the destroyed bases spread, contaminating water sources and farmland across East Asia. An environmental crisis erupted, forcing neighboring nations to collaborate urgently to contain the disaster. Autonomous robot teams were deployed to clean up radiation, while international relief ships delivered medical supplies and food to affected areas. The U.S. and China, recognizing the cost of the conflict, paused military actions to focus on relief efforts. Yet the battlefield remained littered with debris and wreckage, with insurgent groups exploiting the chaos to rise. The crisis temporarily halted the war, but lingering tensions and the enduring environmental threat signaled an unstable future.
Tensions between the U.S. and Iran have escalated over years of maritime confrontations in the Persian Gulf. U.S. freedom of navigation operations often provoke disputes, while Iran asserts its claims with aggressive maneuvers, like speedboat swarms and missile threats. A secret Iranian invasion fleet at the end of 2024 pushed the region to the brink, triggering a swift U.S. response that altered the global balance. Below is the account of this conflict, from a covert maritime incursion to its fiery oceanic conclusion.
On a moonless night in 2025, Iran launched a covert invasion fleet from its ports in the Persian Gulf, aiming to seize key oil platforms near the Strait of Hormuz. The armada included stealth submarines and fast attack boats loaded with missiles, slipping through international waters under radar evasion. Warnings from Iranian vessels to U.S. patrols echoed Tehran's sovereignty claims, but the fleet pressed on, targeting strategic choke points. The atmosphere grew tense as radars detected anomalies, and suddenly, Iranian boats swarmed a U.S. destroyer, forcing evasive actions. The waters around the disputed platforms became a powder keg, ready to ignite.
The invasion fleet's advance triggered U.S. surveillance systems, with satellites and underwater sensors picking up the submarine signatures. Drones deployed from a nearby U.S. carrier scanned the seas, disrupting Iranian communications with sonar pings. Fires erupted on several Iranian vessels as initial clashes unfolded, alarms blaring across the fleet. U.S. ships fired warning shots, but Iran misinterpreted this as aggression, launching anti-ship drones. The American destroyer activated close-range defenses, downing several drones, but remaining missiles rocked the waves. The turbulent seas witnessed continuous explosions, transforming the area into a raging battlefield.
The conflict spread to cyberspace and the air. Viruses targeted Iranian navigation systems, while U.S. countermeasures jammed the fleet's radar. In the skies, fighter jets from a U.S. carrier clashed with Iranian aircraft in intense dogfights. Hypersonic missiles streaked toward the U.S. destroyer, but advanced defenses intercepted most, debris raining into the sea. The battle expanded as Allied forces from a neighboring nation joined with patrol boats, turning the invasion zone into a multinational flashpoint where explosions and black smoke shrouded the sky.
The conflict escalated uncontrollably as Iran fired ballistic missiles at U.S. bases in the Gulf. The U.S. retaliated with strikes on Iranian command centers along the coast. Cruise missiles launched from U.S. submarines destroyed these facilities, shaking regional power dynamics. Smoke rose from the ruined sites, causing panic in nearby cities. Iran's allies responded with attacks on U.S. assets in the Middle East, while U.S. carriers deployed defensive formations in the Gulf. Global economies reeled as oil routes halted, and satellite imagery revealed vast areas engulfed in smoke.
The rapid destruction of the invasion fleet triggered unforeseen geopolitical shifts. Radioactive leaks from damaged Iranian submarines contaminated Gulf waters, forcing regional nations to form emergency alliances for cleanup. Autonomous robot teams cleared debris, while international relief ships delivered supplies to affected areas. The U.S. and Iran, facing mutual devastation, halted military actions to focus on recovery. But the battlefield remained littered with wreckage, with insurgent groups exploiting the chaos to rise. The crisis temporarily curbed the war, but new alliances and lingering threats signaled an unstable future.